Okay, awesome. Welcome to the podcast, Hector.
Thank you, Thomas. Glad to be here.
So just as a brief introduction, so Hector was the Chief Operations Officer at National Technical Systems, where you spent over 20 years working with the business, working through different leadership roles, and obviously, NTS ended up exiting into Element. So really excited to get your perspective on different topics. So the first question that we'll start with is basically, can you introduce yourself and your background within operational leadership as well?
Absolutely. Once again, thank you, Thomas, for having me here today. My background really is operations. I spent 23 years with National Technical Systems. The last role, as you mentioned, when we exited, I was in the chief operating role for the last 4 years. So NTS, one of the largest TIC companies in the U.S., with locations, total of 28 locations around the U.S., Canada, and Europe. Very diversified: aerospace, defense, automotive, telecommunications, nuclear industry, and materials testing as well.
Fantastic. So just in general then, why do you love the TIC industry? What's exciting about it for you?
Well, to be honest, I got hooked on TIC industry when I was 16 years old as an intern at a test lab. Didn't know what TIC was at the time, but I found myself helping some of the senior engineers set up testing, and I'm going to age myself here, but set up testing for what was back then cutting edge technology, which was CD players for your vehicles, right? To figure out how do we implement these CD players in vehicles and not have them skip every time you're going around, over bumps or anything else. So from that point on, that led into other types of testing. And I love the fact that we get to be on the cutting edge, right? There's new technology. Most of the time, the requirements that come out within TIC, you don't have all the test equipment readily available. So you have to be able to find a way to bridge that gap. Maybe something exists 70, 80% there, but you have to find a way to get from here to there. How do we get from here to Mars? How do we get, hypersonic? How do we get more effective in streaming more video, right? I mean, all those type of things, to me, certainly drive me, in the ability to get to see and be part of that is fulfilling for me.
Very good. Okay, so the previous role that you had at NTS, what were your primary responsibilities? And it would also be good to understand maybe, NTS as a business and kind of what they did, maybe some of the end markets that you touched too.
Absolutely. So as the CEO within NTS, we had a total of 28 locations, right? Each location was its own business unit. Each of them focused on different industries. We had some locations that did nothing but nuclear testing, right? They serviced nuclear power plants. They had teams that went out and really went out to the power plants and certified equipment, or many times repaired equipment as well. On the other side, we have many locations that were around the defense side. All your mil standards 810, as well as DON 60, anything that goes up in space. So each location really had a site leader. That site leader will report into what we call a director of operations, and those directors of operations reported into myself. Operational cadence included weekly meetings on numerous KPIs, dashboards looking at on-time delivery, safety, customer satisfaction, really trying to figure out how do we drive our performance and make sure that we stay in front of the industry from a customer satisfaction standpoint. So very, very much around planning and production, right? Sometimes we talk about production and planning, but those are important to have the planning before you get into production. So most of our locations weren't very large. There's a handful that we could consider centers of excellence.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there were 25 employees or less. In the larger sites, the centers of excellence, probably were up in the 90 to 150, some were 200. In each of those locations, I would interface with on a weekly basis to make sure that we were on track and make sure that if there was any constraints, no matter what they were, negotiations, contract negotiations, potentially technical challenges that they might have, making sure we brought the right resources and the business partners to support them. Like I said, anything that came up, we would address and we would collaborate as a team and really come up with a solution on how we were going to address it. And that was from week to week. Other days it was focused on sales, the business winning, the commercial excellence piece of it, of pricing and understanding the market and how do we go capture more market share. So that really from a COO role, and of course you can't forget the P&L responsibility, right? Which is we have to meet our financial obligations, hit our AOPs, make sure that we're driving value to our shareholders. So everything we did revolved around that. And our goal was always to become best in class, right? If somebody else is doing it, could we do it better? If nobody else is doing it, why can't we do it? And let's find a way to do it. And that really was the mindset that we had.
But it sounds as though your sort of operational leadership role was pretty commercially facing as well. Really, you've mentioned customer satisfaction.
It was absolutely. In my career, I spent some time as a regional sales manager. So the business winning, the commercial side, the customer meetings on contract negotiations, making sure that we could technically do it, making sure that our customers found value in partnering with us. You're absolutely correct, right? That commercial sales side of it was probably 30 to 40% of the time.
Nice. So within your career, what were some of the key challenges you faced within your leadership roles?
Well, the biggest challenge that I found in leading 28 locations was trying to get some standard cadence, right? Yeah. You have 28 locations. Each location, most of them were all acquisitions. They already had a rhythm. They had a cadence in place, maybe a mature operating system, some probably not too mature, but trying to get all 28 locations into a battle rhythm, something that they would do every single day, and there was metrics around that so that we could manage it and then be able to look at the company as a whole in the aggregate and say, is the company doing well? And if not, why and where do we need to focus our time? So I would say the most challenging part was trying to get individuals to change their mindset from, I know what I'm doing, I've done it this way for so long, and get them to open up to the possibility that there might be a more effective way to do it, right? Be open to change, be open to adapt to some of the systems and processes that are out there. A lot of tools available, a lot of technology. And just because you've been doing it one way for 20 years doesn't mean it's the best way. And that to me was probably the most fun part of the job, right? Everywhere you go, everyone's best lab ever, right? But you sit down and they get to see other locations. And that is one of the benefits of having a portfolio with 28 locations, is you get to baseline and compare like-sized business where you might not be able to go to an open market and look at your competitors and see what they're doing exactly. This way you can actually look and compare like-sized businesses that are supporting the same type of customer base and figure out maybe why one's doing better in one area than the other, and be able to share those best practice. And to me, that was a fun part of it. Challenging, but fun.
That's interesting. I've actually never heard that perspective in terms of can't get the insight externally, so use the internal resources, which were mostly acquired businesses to figure out what different companies are doing and how to do it best. And as well, I guess as you're leading up towards a sale, you've got to be able to get some consistency and cadence between different locations, because as a buyer, you're looking at that business and saying, well, I don't want to buy 28 different businesses in one group. I want to buy one thing super clean.
It drives chaos otherwise, right? If you don't have similar KPIs, you walk into one location and they say, well, we're doing well. well, quantify that for me. What does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
And then you walk to another location and they say the same thing, but they have different metrics. So really driving that standard across the portfolio so that you can then look to the left, look to the right. The value in that is that I found it became more of a peer-driven success versus a top-down.
Okay.
Right? It's not a corporate mandate.
Yeah.
Right now, I have peers that are doing the same thing I do, but they're doing it better. So then I want to find out, why are they doing it better, and how do I do it better?
Yeah.
So that part was really that was fun.
Nice. Awesome. So in general, what leadership qualities do you believe are essential for operational leadership success?
You know, I've been around many different styles of leadership. And of course, for me, the ones that I believe are essential there are two: integrity and transparency, right?
Okay.
Integrity to me is mean what you say what you mean, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not doing something well, or if someone's not doing something at the level that's expected of them, then have enough respect to have that conversation with them, professional, of course, one-on-one, leading towards improvement versus, maybe a verbal lashings and all that other good stuff, or trying to embarrass people in a public forum. So to me, that piece is mean what you say and say what you mean. Have integrity so that nobody can ever question when I say something, whether in fact that's going to happen or not. All right. The second one is transparency. I find that when you're leading and building teams, people want to know what we're really trying to achieve, regardless of what it is, right? Regardless of what point, whether a business is struggling or whether a business is being successful, or whether you're looking at consolidations or whatever phase of the business you're in. I believe in working with professional adults, treat them like professional adults, be transparent, and you'll find that most people will actually help you achieve what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's one of I've read loads of studies on transparency and how it increases engagement. And I think actually there can be some really tough topics in the business that if it was delivered as a completely clean top-down thing, you'd probably lose a lot of people. However, if you engage the business and you take time to articulate it, it might take 6 or 7 meetings, but you can actually get through some really, really tough topics with that transparency and engagement. And in general, I think it just creates an improved culture.
It absolutely does. And all the other employees around them see that as well. Because we're all human and we want to be treated respectfully. And if I'm looking to the left and one of my peers is being treated in a way that I think is maybe not professional or not respectful, then it makes me wonder how I'm going to be treated. Right. So as a leader, I strive to be consistent in that.
Nice. Good word. Yeah. Consistency, leadership for sure. So continuous improvement. Can you discuss the importance of this and how you foster a culture of innovation within your operational teams?
Well, that continuous improvement. A lot of people will give you the head nod. Of course, we're improving. We're always improving, right? But when you ask to look at their performance or improvements over the last 6 months, there's no tangible way to show you or measure or say we were here and we're now here, and here's what we've actually improved. So for me, when you talk about continuous improvement, it's absolutely essential to growth of a business. And you have to have a system in place where you can quantify what those improvements have been. Right? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if you don't have a system in place that shows everyone around you that the continuous improvement is going to benefit everyone, right? The work environment, the cleanliness, the safety piece, the efficiency or effectiveness, because we're always improving in how we're doing things, then I think it gets to a point where it could be very, very unhealthy and demotivates. However, the opposite of that is if I'm measuring and I have a cadence in place where I'm communicating and celebrating those wins, celebrating those milestones of look where we were 3 months ago, versus where we are today. And people, as they say, pictures worth 1,000 words, and all of a sudden they're seeing the pictures of what it used to be versus what it is now.
Yeah.
And they just to see them, I can't believe we worked like that, or I can't believe we used to do it that way, or I can't believe, right?
Yeah.
So I think that all feeds into the work environment, the morale, just how a culture starts developing within a company. So, and if you don't do it, you're going to fall behind, and eventually that gap gets too big, right? Where you look at it and say, is it a viable business? Do I really want to go spend the amount of resources and time to bring that business to the level it needs to be to compete in today's market? And that is a danger that if you don't have a system in place, you could find yourself in that environment where you're looking at it saying, it's just too big. The gap's too big. I can't get from here to there.
Wow. Okay. So on to kind of you and your life. So what role does gratitude play, and how do you incorporate it into your daily routine?
So gratitude, that's a big word, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I guess for me, I look at my mindset is get up every day and I'm grateful for every day. Now, in order, I mean, that sounds a little lofty and big out there, but at the same time, you have to know a little bit about who I am, right? I'm an immigrant. My parents migrated to the U.S. English is my second language.
Wow.
I spent some time in the Marine Corps and survived that piece of it.
Wow.
I'm a cancer survivor. I have 4 teenage kids. I've been married going on 25 years. So gratitude for me is truly a daily get up and have a mindset of I get to do this versus I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever it is, whether it be challenging, even if it's not fun, it becomes hey, remember you get to do this, right? Not I have to do it. It's I get to do this, because along the way life has many different turns, and the fact that we have the opportunity and we're in the room or around the table, we're in the office with teams or whatever it may be, is just having that mindset of I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to do it. And when your employees see that, when you bring that to the table and they see that over and over again, you'd be amazed what it does to a team, right? You're not forcing people to show up and work extra or travel on a Sunday or on a Saturday. It just changes the dynamics. So for me, I get up every day and I'm grateful and have a mindset of gratitude, and we get to do what we do.
I just wondered, is that because I think gratitude, I think if you can focus on any one thought process that's going to improve the rest of your life, like is going to cascade and improve other things, I think that gratitude piece is the number one. And I just wondered if specifically that was something that you used to discuss with your teams as a term, as a way of thinking, or was it something that was just demonstrated through your behaviors?
No, it was definitely both, right? So I look at my career with MTS specifically. I mean, when you look at a very, very long career, I started with National Technical Systems as what we called an application engineer, and progressed as the company grew, and I was given the opportunities to take on different roles. And whether I was naive enough or courageous enough to say, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. It afforded me the ability to really look at the business as a whole, and to sit there, 23 years later and say, I'm exiting the company after we've sold. When I joined NTS, I think we had 4 locations at the time. We exited with 28 locations. When we talk about TIC or testing, I started on the floor as a technician even before MTS, right? I worked in the test lab as a test tech, moved over to program manager, test engineer. So having that hands-on experience really resonates with the workforce. So that piece of, to your point, you don't just model it, but you have to bring it to the forefront and have the conversations. And many times, going back to the mean what you say what you mean, that conversation could be, are you in the right role? Right? Is
Yeah,
this the right fit? Is this the right fit for you? Because every role is going to come with a certain demand, right? There's certain requirements and there's things that are going to come with it. And many times, some people may end up in the wrong roles, and helping them move into a role where they were going to be better off and the company was going to benefit from it. That also provided the opportunity.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. So, closing question. If you could look back in time and give advice to your 21-year-old self, what would that be?
Oh, wow. I mean, looking back at my 21-year-old self, there was definitely no gray hair back then. I can tell you that. And I would absolutely tell myself that you don't need to know everything, right? But you must. I mean, you don't even know everything to be successful, but you must be willing to recognize that you don't know everything, right? And my perspective is the key to success is build yourself good teams, surround yourself with great people, right? That drives success. If you don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to go find the answers and have good people around you that know that you're going to help them and they're going to help you, and the collective group will come up with solutions or recommendations that make more sense than any one individual. So
amazing.
As a 21-year-old, you tend to want to, know everything. You want to. I can go rule the world at 21 years old. But I would say you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I think that's that sort of humbleness to, and then that as a platform allows you to then move forward. I think outside of that, there's some arrogance that you carry at 21 and your younger ages that you sort of shake off a little bit, don't you, as you get humbled by making mistakes when you told people you knew it, but you didn't know it and you got caught.
So, life has a way of humbling you along the way.
Yeah, 100%. So no, look, we'll close the podcast there, Hector. But I massively appreciate you coming on, and I think the wider audience is going to take a lot from this. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and giving me the opportunity. Like I said, I love what I do, and it's been a long career, and I'm hoping to be able to put the experience and the skill sets to use.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hector. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.